Okay, welcome to Power Pivots, the podcast where we explore stories behind the fundamental career shifts and changes that have made all the difference. I'm your host, I go by Hatu, and today we are joined by
Malik Mack.
Mr. Mack, man. Glad to have you, brother. Glad to have
Thanks
you.
for having me.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to be here. It's a pleasure.
We are excited. We are excited to have you. So, shoot, let's just jump into it.
Wonderful.
So I like to start the show off by asking people about their PowerPoints. So who are you? Give me like 3 words or phrases that you'd use to describe yourself.
Absolutely. So if I had to choose 3 words or phrases to describe myself, the first word would be black. The second word would be human. And the third word would be vessel.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
Care to
Absolutely.
emphasize any of those? Explain a little bit?
Yeah, so when I think about myself, I think about the total self, right? So when I say black, I think about my culture. I think about where I come from. I think about how I was brought up. I think about, the things I've learned. I think about just how that all has affected me and created me and crafted me into who I am. So black is a very central point of who I am, of my identity. I am a black man, and that's really important for me to make sure that when in any space that I am, I'll be representing I am a black man. The second part to that is human. I'm very human. I have my faults. I'm not perfect. I don't have all the answers, but I try my best, right? Every day I try to be better than I was yesterday. I am a human. I fall, I bleed. Things don't always go the way that I think they're supposed to go. But at the end of the day, I recognize, I give myself grace because I'm not God. I'm a human. So that's the second word. The third word is vessel. Through my life, people always talk about what's your purpose? What's your purpose? Find your purpose. What is that thing? And for me, I use the term vessel because I truly believe that I am a vessel. I'm a Christian. So I always say that God definitely uses me on occasion to, it's either to have a random conversation with a random individual that, changes the trajectory of their day, month, life. And I feel like he's been using me consistently for a lot of those different type of, I don't call them projects, but definitely those type of life-changing or conversations or just interactions or even sometimes friendships and things like that. So I use the word vessel, and I'm very, very intentional about using that term because I definitely believe that he has me on assignment a lot of times. So vessel is my third word.
Very great. Yeah. Very great. It's so crazy because you and I obviously have a personal relationship. Absolutely. But I try and predict what words I think people will use, and those are not those. Exactly. I'm blown away, but that's beautiful. Those are all really great points. Awesome. Well, I wanted to get more into your story, like the hindsight story. They say that stories are always told in hindsight, and it's 2020. So I guess give me your experience looking back. Like, tell me more about your story.
Absolutely. So my story, my professional story really starts around 2012 when I graduated from college. My family lived north of Baltimore, about 30 miles in a place called Harford County. And I graduated, I went home and immediately, was seeking employment. I actually was placed in a job through a recruiting agency. They placed me at the American Nurses Association. The job wasn't a fit in any way, shape, or form, but they recognized hey, we actually have a recruiter position opening up. And, based off of your experience and some of the things you've done, we would really love to talk to you and see if you would be interested in working here. So I ended up working at that recruiting agency, and I told myself, I'm here for a year. After that year, I'm moving to New York City. So I was in that recruiting position for 6 months, and pretty much the entire marketing department quit in different ways. One of the marketing assistant, coordinator, whatever you want to call her, she actually was placed through the company to another company. And then the lady who was actually running the entire marketing department, you call her a marketing director, she was seeking employment elsewhere and she left. So we pretty much lost our entire marketing department within the span of like a week and a half. So, we're a recruiting agency. We have obviously we can find marketers and things like that to fill this position. But I went into the office with the CEO and I said, hey, that's my background. That's what I wanted to do, so if you, give me a chance for a couple months, try me out, let me run this department and I can show you, I can show you what I can do. And he kind of thought about it a little bit and he was like, you know what, let's give it a chance. Let's see what happens. So I end up taking over the entire department. And it was much longer than it was supposed to be. Just like I said, try me out. But then after that time, he was like, no, you're great, because my background was digital marketing, but I also had a tech background. So I was able to integrate a lot of the systems and things that our previous marketing directors, had a little bit of trouble doing. And so I was able to come in and integrate new things. And I led us through a whole database refresh situation that he blew his mind, because it's something he always wanted to do. So me taking over the marketing department, I said, okay, I'm not going to stay for a year. I'm going to give this role a year. So I ended up staying in Baltimore for a year and a half. But I knew I'm still moving to New York. So I said, it's not going to be a long term. I said, in my head, I said, okay, I'm starting over, giving them a year in this role. But when that year hits, I'm moving to New York City. And so that's what I did. Fast forward, New York, started working for a company. It was a marketing company. Really, it was just to get a job so I could be in the city, have income. Told myself, Malik, you're going to be an entrepreneur. We know you want to be an entrepreneur. So we're going to stay in this role for how long? A year. So I said, I'm gonna give him a year. 8 months came. I kind of was over the position and I wanted some more money. And a job came. It was actually a job that the hiring directors were Cornellians. So it came through one of my Cornell listservs. I said, this is some good money and this is kind of cool, and it's Cornellian. So honestly, I interviewed on Saturday. They offered me the job on Monday, and I left. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I think it was definitely some Cornell nepotism in that thing, because I definitely jumped through some hoops. It was quicker for me than I think other people would have experienced. Took that job.
First of all, an interview on a Saturday.
Because they were very. I sent them my resume on Friday when I seen it. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, this is that whole vessel thing. Like, I was working on Friday. I said, I'm leaving this job. Today is my last day. That's what I said in my head. And then that email came through like right after that. No cap. Then I sent them my resume. They loved my resume. They said, can we talk on Saturday? Talked on Saturday. Pretty much offered me the job on Monday. I said, okay. Got into that role. Dealt with a lot of things that, black people deal with in these corporate roles. Microaggressions. Had a manager who was scared of me. So all of our one-on-ones and things were uncomfortable for him. And it was just like, I can pick up on those vibes, right? I had a lot of instances where, I was just like, this is weird. Why am I experiencing these things? But then I remember, I told God, I want to be an entrepreneur and I'm only going to be working for these people for 1 year and I'm getting out of here to go do what I'm supposed to do. So I feel like God was like, okay, what do you ask for? So let me throw some things to remind you that this is what you said you wanted to do. So once I kind of started receiving those things, I said, I need to get on it and become an entrepreneur. So what I do, I said, I'm going to save 12 months of expenses. And once I hit that number, I'm quitting on that day. Let me tell you about my guy. I ended up saving 12 months of expenses in the next month and a half. Money was in the pocket. Done. What I do, went to my very scared manager and said, hey, I'm quitting. Do you want a 2 weeks notice or can I just leave today? What do you want? And he kind of was like, well, I can do 2 weeks. That'd be nice. I said, I'm not against it. I'm just letting you know I'm done. I'm checked out. I'm done. I was so.
Well, that's nice of you.
Listen, I try not to be a burden on people, but I was done, and they respected my decision. They were, upset, scrambling, or whatever, but it was okay, right? Because it's about me. It's not about them. So I was so intentional about my quitting. I had an I quit party. Okay, I let people know, like, listen, we're going to celebrate the day that I end.
I remember this.
Remember the part? Remember Calico Jackson?
Yeah, I remember this part of there.
I was like, this is it. So that was the beginning of my pivot. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I'm sure we'll get more into it. Mm-hmm. This is a fantastic story. I'm always just curious though, like, let's get into like the actual pivot.
Okay.
Like, you've given me a lot of context into like what you changed into.
Yeah.
And more into like why you did it. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you wanted to pursue entrepreneurship, and we'll get more into in what specific regard you pursued entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
But like, how did you do it? Like, what were some of the aspects other than like making sure that you had the financial stability for the next 12 months? What was able to motivate you to get there? What are some of the tools and resources for you to say, you know what, this is something that's viable for me to pursue at this moment?
Absolutely. So the thing about entrepreneurship is that I knew it was smart to have a full-time job. Well, I kind of started to grow these companies. So I didn't just jump out there and then start my companies, right? So while I was working for these corporate companies, I also already started my clothing line. It was called We Are Not Through. Okay. I had a luxury hair company called Luxurious Manes. And then I had my web development digital marketing agency called Mack Interactive. So I was already, And the fourth thing is I had Entrepreneur Media, which was a media company helping other Black and people of color businesses with a lot of information, articles, and things like that to help them kind of get up to speed. And with that platform, I had a podcast where I was interviewing Black entrepreneurs and explaining their stories, and also, hey, give us those tips, give us that information that's going to help other people be able to grow their businesses as well. And I ran that for a while. So I was running those 4 businesses while I was working. This thing wasn't a jump out there and figure it out. It was like, no, let's get it set up. Let's know what we're doing, and then get comfortable, and then jump out there. And that's how I was able to save the 12 months of expenses so quickly. I just leveraged my businesses and I pulled in the money, the income from there. And then next thing you know, with my paycheck and those businesses' income, I was able to, hit my goal and quit my job. But getting into, what got me into a position to feel comfortable, what was kind of the why, and then also resources. I would say that I have always been an entrepreneur since middle school, right? I used to go to middle school. I used to go to the dollar store. I used to buy the 5-pack of Bubblicious for $1. I used to take them out the pack, put them in a bag. I used to walk around the school, sell them for 25 cents a piece. If I bought 5 packs and I sold out that day, I made $20 profit. $20 a day as a middle schooler.
That's a lot of money.
Boy, that's everything, right? That's putt money. That's movie theater money. Movies, that's all that money. So all the Harford County people remember putt. Yeah. So I had that mindset, and then I moved into CDs, DVDs, and software because I understood how to use like torrents and LimeWire and all that stuff. So I was able to make CDs and DVDs and find software for people. And that was my background was in tech. Even then, I knew how to install it. I knew Mac versus PC. I knew how to all of those different things. So that helped me make a lot of money. Moved that into high school, and then I started my own PC pretty much sell and repair company. So I was going around, I was in Philadelphia, I was in Delaware, I was in Maryland, driving around in my own car, fixing people's computers through referrals, through marketing, through all these different things. So, I've been an entrepreneur for so long. Even when I went into college, right? I was doing party flyers for people. I was doing music production. I was doing all these different things, and I was making streams of income for myself because I was a struggling college student, right? And I was like, I need to have income, right? So I wasn't born with a silver spoon. I didn't have money. People just giving me money, which would have been a blessing, but that wasn't my reality. Yeah. So I had a work study job, and I also had my side hustles, and I've been an entrepreneur. So I knew, and I could backtrack a little bit. In high school, we did these letters, 5 years to yourself, write a letter to yourself, where you're going to be, who you're going to be, all these things. My letter was accurate to a T. Like my mom, they sent it to our house, whatever. My mom opened it because, moms don't care. And of course, she calls me and reads it, and she's like, this is creepy. Like, this is to the T. Like, you living in New York. Wow. You're an entrepreneur. You're like all these different things. And I said, I always felt in me that was going to be my path. I just had to figure out where in that world I was going to land, right? So clothing line, the hair company, the web development agency, and then Entrepreneurship Media, all those things were kind of like different facets of things I was interested in that I was kind of figuring out where am I going to land, right? The hair company, I started a hair company because I watched Good Hair, and he told me it was a multi-billion-dollar industry, and I already was doing the clothing. So I asked my suppliers about hair. They gave me connections. Next thing you know, I'm looking at margins, and I'm like, oh, I could play this game. I have friends. I went to a tech high school. I have friends who literally came out of high school as licensed cosmetologists. I'm sending them here, asking them questions. I'm educating myself on this thing. And next thing you know, I'm like, okay, I'm in business. And I'm gonna tell you something. I made some great money from that hair company. Like I remember the packages going out. I made some money off that hair. Yeah. So I was really trying to find out what that entrepreneurship was going to look like by testing different markets in different areas. And then now where I'm currently sitting is more on the tech side with the web development, the branding, and then specific sub niches that I have in that world. Resources. Yeah. So when I was going through my journey and saying, okay, I want to start my businesses. How can I do this? YouTube University was there for me. I was all in on YouTube. YouTube saved my life in statistics in college, and ever since that day, I was like, YouTube is my ace boon cool. I'm with you. Yeah. So YouTube University was really big for me. I would say that another thing that was really big and for me was I was in forums, a lot of different forums and stuff, because I learned music production through forums. So I said, if I can find some forums specific to entrepreneurship, I feel like I can get that same type of response when I'm writing in posts and people respond directly to me. So even though forums were a little bit outdated at the time, they still helped me because people had information. And if I had very specific questions, be it about merchandising, be it about manufacturing, be it about hair, be it about, web and how I can, what platforms I should be using, hosting, all those different things, these forums really help guide me into the, these places that I need to be. So then I could do further research using YouTube, because now I had the keywords that I needed, and I was able to utilize both, in tandem, so that I can figure out, what this entrepreneurship thing is going to look like. The biggest piece to this was I had a friend at the time who she gave me a Google Sheet template for budgeting. I took it and I altered it a little bit, and it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys ever heard of like the bucketing system, where you bucket your money and you kind of see, okay, this is for for living expenses, this is for going out, whatever. We used that and we retooled it. And that was why I was able to save that money so quickly, because I used that bucketing system, remove some things that would be going out, remove them, and then reduce some things that needed to be reduced. And I was able to free up more money, and then it was able to increase my income. So that way I was able to create that pool of money so much faster. That tool was super, super, super crucial in me being able to quit that job and make that ultimate pivot. So those are a couple of resources as well.
Yeah, no, that is all really, really helpful. I think that a lot of times folks don't really realize how useful something like a YouTube or a forum is. And a lot of times, like, the foundation is just like asking the right questions, right? Or like getting the right answers, even more importantly, right? Like of being able to figure out like, okay, I think I know where I want to go, but what are some of the steps that you...
Exactly.
So,
has Power Pivots inspired you to reevaluate your career path? If so, look into Power Pivots Career Coaching. Whether you're interested in career discovery, job description dissection, or interview prep, I take a tailored approach to helping you understand your ultimate career goals and get closer to them. Interested? Fill out the interest form at the bottom of the show notes for your free 30-minute consultation. For any questions, email hatu@powerpivots.co. That's HATU@powerpivots.co. As always, pivot powerfully.
I had a question that I wanted to ask you. Okay. I wanted to understand a little bit more about how foundational you felt certain experiences are. So
absolutely,
obviously you went to Cornell. That's where we met. I wanted to see like how foundational you thought your degree at Cornell was, and just the institution overall was in your experience. But I also wanted to know more about, from a corporate standpoint, how important that corporate experience was. Knowing that you wanted to go into entrepreneurship full time, what did you think that experience gave you, if anything?
Absolutely. Okay, so I'll start with the Cornell experience. Cornell was not an easy journey for me. It was very
I'm with you there.
And I had to take some onus on that. I definitely was choosing fun over, being super studious the majority of the time. And I also had a lot of experiences with people that were very, like a lot of mental health stuff, like with friends and things like that. And I took on a lot more than I probably should have. But I sit here today, I'm not upset at that, because where I am today and those experiences and those people that I have, close friends and things like that, they have definitely helped mold me and shape me, being able to take on that stuff. Anyway, Cornell, super difficult. Had to figure out how to navigate that world, because I felt like I didn't have the support from the administration the way I thought I should. Now, that's not to say that they weren't supported. It's just that I don't feel like they supported me the way I needed them to, because I had a lot of questions. I used to get conflicting information from different people in the same office, and I felt like you guys are the ones who's supposed to help me kind of get to, where I am and things like that when it comes to these classes. I was in arts and sciences, which has a lot of requirements, and there's a whole report that I didn't even know existed that shows you what requirements and tracked it for you until my senior year.
Wow.
But I'm not the person who, came to my deans and administration, once in a while. I went there all the time. Why was the first day I should have been given the dust report so I could have been tracking and choosing classes accordingly. Anywho, had those experiences. Because that experience beat up on me so much, I tell people that when I graduated, I really felt like there was nothing that I could not accomplish. If people talk about sororities and fraternities and hazing, I was hazed at Cornell University from the administration. Okay. And it was supposed to be bigger and better. I came out bigger and better, because when I hit the real world, there was nothing I felt like that I couldn't accomplish. When I moved to New York, I wasn't even afraid of New York. I was like, New York, are you ready for Malik? Right. That's how I felt. So it was, it was a blessing blessing in disguise. And sometimes God will take us through that storm, but he always tell you that even when you're in a storm, I'm always with you. And there's always an end to that storm. And I felt like Cornell in a lot of ways was that storm, but he was with me and we got through it. And then for life now, I feel like there is no storm that I cannot tackle. Going into corporate, because I had the Cornell experience, I didn't feel no fear going into corporate. I used to walk in there like, no, you guys want me. So how bad do you want me? And then, you're my boss. Yes, and I'm going to respect you. But, there's certain things that are just not going to fly. You're not going to talk to me any kind of way. We're not, we're going to have a very respectful and great relationship. And we're going to do whatever we need to do to make this, business, grow or whatever in this marketing department. I learned so much through my corporate experience, though. I had an internship every summer that I was in Cornell. And because I was one of those people who understood research very well, I was able to learn a lot of these marketing principles and a lot of these marketing tactics and strategies as they came out, right? Okay. For instance, search engine optimization was starting to boom, right? That was the start of the boom of that when I was in college and my internships. Those marketing directors that I had who were above me did not understand it. They didn't know what to do. I was able to research. I was in those forums. I was able to do a deep dive into different places in the internet and learn what it is, learn what black hat, white hat, gray hat was, all these different aspects of search engine optimization. And then now I'm able to communicate that on my resume. It's pinging in their ATS systems when they're searching for people to these internships. And now I'm at the front of the line because I understand it and I can speak it intelligently. And here's the kicker. They don't understand it. So to me, I could just make it up anything. And they were just kind of like eating it up because it was like, we need this. Our CEO is saying we need search engine optimization. We need it and things like that. So social media marketing, same thing. So my experience through those internships gave me the ability to I would say easily, because it was pretty easy for me to get jobs coming out of college. But then those skills were solidified working in those different jobs, running that marketing department, right? And then being able to keep running it, right? Because he's like, oh no, what you're doing is making sense. We're getting new potential people to come in and get these jobs. Or, you're helping the sales team. You're doing all these different things and everything's running as well as it was when we had the other person. So this is great. The other two people, let's keep it real. So so this is great. And you're also introducing new tech things because you have that background. So my corporate experience was paramount in making me a very confident entrepreneur, because when I'm going out there looking for my own clients, they're looking, they want to make sure that I can also, speak intelligently to marketing for their businesses, speak intelligently to web development for their businesses, branding for their businesses. And I was able to, and I was comfortable. I was client facing. So I was never shy or scared to get on the phone and talk to them. So my corporate experience and my Cornell experience really made me who I am to this day, that when I jumped out to become an entrepreneur, I didn't feel scared. I felt like, let's go. I'm ready to tackle the world and I'm ready to become the best entrepreneur I know how to be and have unlimited income potential, which is the biggest part of entrepreneurship for me.
That actually feeds in pretty well to my next question. Actually was to ask you, as long as I can remember, as long as I've known you, entrepreneurship has been a core fundamental aspect of you. I actually thought you were going to make that one of your PowerPoints, but I wanted to ask you overall, and hearing more of your story helps me understand more about you from that aspect. But why is entrepreneurship so important to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the biggest part of it is freedom. I am very family oriented. My love language is spending time. So I knew that if I was working one of these high powered 9-to-5s, I wouldn't have time, right? We lived together. I was always on the mega bus. I was always on my way to Philly. I was always on my way to Maryland. People was like, do you even live here anymore? Because I can do my job anywhere. I'm an entrepreneur anywhere. As long as I have my laptop or an internet connection, I really can do whatever I need to do. So, I want to be there for my nephew's birthdays parties. I want to be there for my nephew's basketball game. You know what I mean? I want to be able to be there for my cousins doing whatever, my aunts and uncles doing whatever, my mom, my stepdad, whatever, anybody's doing whatever. I want it to be free and available. And entrepreneurship really gave me that ability, right? And I knew that it would. So that was why it was super crucial for me to be able to become an entrepreneur. But also, I wanted people who look like me, who who came from where I came from to be able to say, this is possible. I talk to people every day, potential entrepreneurs, people just looking for additional income, things like that. And we can have 10, 15-minute conversations. And they'd be like, Malik, you don't even understand how much this means to me, right? They'd be like, no one has ever told me this is possible. You're the first person to tell me this is even possible. You know what I mean? Especially before TikTok and Instagram Reels and everything, where content became king and everybody had to keep making content every day. So, they're hearing more about income streams and things like that, which is beautiful, right? But they was like, I've never even thought this was possible. How could little me? I can start a business? Yes, you can.
Right.
You can start several businesses. So it's very important for me to not only become an entrepreneur, but also to become a very visible entrepreneur, because I really wanted people to recognize that this thing is so possible that you're almost doing yourself a disservice for not even trying, right? Yeah. That's why when I tell my story about saving 12 months of expenses, I tell people, do that. I'd much rather you keep your job and just focus on saving up that 12 months of expenses and then quitting, because guess what? If you don't make another dollar for that year, you're still going to live the exact same lifestyle. I didn't say save 12 months of minimum. I said your expenses, right? All of your expenses. So that way you can live the same lifestyle, even if you don't make another dollar for the next year, but you give yourself a chance, and you give yourself a chance while being comfortable. That's what's super important. So for me, entrepreneurship was freedom. Entrepreneurship was being visible so that other people who are like me, come from places that I'm from, look like me, can see that this is possible. And for me, that was more important than anything. And then the third part is the money. Oh, let's call a spade a spade. I love crab legs. Those are my things. I love crab legs. Okay? Supermarket down the street got them on sale right now for $8.99 a pound. Guess where I'm going after this interview? So I'm going to get me some crab legs. But you know what I mean? I have a lifestyle that I also want for myself, right? And then for my future family and things like that. But the money is great. Unlimited income potential, right? And so to me, what's better than that? And I get to utilize my time the way I want to, and then I have unlimited income potential. What's better than that? So
yeah, no, absolutely. And for folks who are interested in entrepreneurship, it's so crazy. Like, there's so many more questions that I have that keep coming up. Is it important to be an entrepreneur that you're doing it full time, or could it be like a moonlight situation? And then also, I wanted you to speak about the importance of the goal, right? Of entrepreneurship. Must it be driven by a passion? Like, I have something that I'm very passionate about and I want to drive that passion to its full extent by entrepreneurship. Or is it okay to say, you know what, I want to be an entrepreneur. I don't know exactly what I want to do. I'm just going to figure it out. And it's all in the name of entrepreneurship. Yeah,
that's these wonderful questions. I talk about this pretty exclusively with people. So the first part about this, do you need to be full-time, or can you, like you say, moonlight, or, just have an additional stream of income? I always say it depends on the person. Right? When I say entrepreneurship, I'm not saying you have to be, Damon Johns or one of these people who they made their entire life of being these big entrepreneurs and things like that. No. You can literally be a person that has your 9 to 5, right? And that 9 to 5 could be anything. You could be working at Chipotle, you could be a greeter at Walmart, or you could be an executive at whatever, right? But then having that side hustle, that side business, additional income stream that fuels your passion, right? Think about how many people we talk about and say, I make great money, I have a great family, I have a great life, but I'm bored. I'm not happy because I'm bored. This is not what I wanted to be doing with my life. I love that I'm able to provide for my family, but my passions are not fulfilled. Entrepreneurship gives you that ability, right? We just met a person yesterday at the event, and that man was selling gourmet vegan popcorn, but he's also a licensed social worker. His wife is about to be a doctor. He was like, it's additional income, you know what I mean? But I love doing this. I love when people come to me with ideas and I come up with the flavor profile for them, and now we got 45 flavors that we have versus just the 44 we had yesterday. Like, it's passion, right? Yes, it's income, but it's passion too. Sometimes you have to fill your time doing things that, I like to say, fills your cup. So I don't think it has to be either or. There's no strong sway. I think it just depends on the person and what they're looking to get out of it. Now, the second part of that question, if you are creating a business or something and it's not passion or something you're interested in, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I will tell you this, entrepreneurship is not easy. That's a huge misconception. It's not easy. Right. And so when times get tough and things get rough, if you're not passionate or you don't really have the love for whatever you're doing, a lot of times you're going to just drop it. you're just not going to want to do it anymore. So you'll find yourself in that endless cycle of just getting rid of things and trying something else because you're not really interested in it. You don't love it. I always tell people it's really great just to sit down and think about something that you really are passionate about and try to figure out how you can create a business around that. And if you can't do that, then find something that's adjacent. You know what I mean? So maybe it's not something you totally love, but it's still in the world of like the functions of it you love. So if you're really big into like design and stuff, maybe developing some type of clothing or fashion or whatever, you might not be into clothing and fashion, but you're into the design, so you can make designs for it. So that makes you happy, you know, even though maybe they make the clothes, you don't really care about the clothes, but you love the designs, things like that. That's going to help you with creating businesses that you're going to want to sustain when things get rough and times get hard, you know. So that's something to really, really, really think about. And yes, there are a bunch of people who want to become entrepreneurs for the sake of saying that I am an entrepreneur. That's fine, but it's the same thing. It's going to get old fast because you're not going to want to do it, right? You're going to be like, oh, I don't care about this. It's more so hobbies. They'll become hobbies. So, you know, if you're really interested in it, or is it something that you're like, you know, I've always, you know, considered it, or I looked at this person doing this, I always thought that was super cool. I always tell people, please give it a try. Give these things a try. But if you know, you're feeling like you don't care, you're not liking it, try something else or whatever. But it doesn't have to be so finite, right? It's a pivot, right? Make a pivot.
There you go.
So
exactly.
This is that world. So definitely, I would say try to find something that has a little bit of touch with your passions because it'll sustain you when things get rough. But some people are built different. They could just do stuff and they don't even care about it. And, you know, that's cool. I didn't really care about luxury hair extensions, but I did care about the money. and it fed me into building my other businesses where I was making the money. So that was what I was into.
Yeah. Well, that's my question for you. It sounds like passion is a huge aspect and a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense. What would you say is your passion and that drives you or like motivates you?
Yeah, so this is great because I recently have refined it. It's definitely helping other entrepreneurs create, build, scale their businesses. I literally launched a initiative this year to help 100 entrepreneurs in any way. Right, when it comes to their business, it doesn't even matter what it is. I just want to be able to help entrepreneurs. I've been an entrepreneurship success coach for years, and that gets really intense, and it's really into the minutia of with individual people. Sometimes people just need 15 minutes of you to answer a couple questions about what they're currently going through to get them to the next level. And I'm down to be that person just to answer those questions for you. So I said, I'm allocating whatever time I need to be able to help 100 entrepreneurs this year. And honestly, I've already started it and I get so full when I talk to these people. Sometimes I get a little too excited, so I dump on them and they be like, oh,
yeah.
I'm on stage 1. This is stage 22, right? And it's like,
slow down, big fella.
Slow down, big. Exactly. And it's like, because I get so excited. So that, when I say my passion is definitely helping other entrepreneurs build, create, or scale their businesses, that puts a smile on my face.
Awesome. Now, I want to understand, obviously we've talked at length about your pivot, the why and how you did it, but what advice would you give yourself from two different angles?
Okay.
From a pre-pivot angle, what advice would you give yourself in hindsight? And then from a post-pivot angle, what advice would you give yourself?
From pre-pivot angle, I love that. I would definitely give myself 2 pieces of advice specifically. Seek mentorship and seek community. Okay. Entrepreneurship can get very lonely because a lot of the times when you start out, it's you're doing it. You know, I'm the everything. I'm the CEO, the CFO, the CMO, the COO, CTO, all of that, right? And a lot of times you spend a lot of time with yourself and client work or communications and things like that. So it can get very lonely. So seeking community of other entrepreneurs so that maybe you guys can co-work together. Maybe you guys could be a referral network for each other. Those different things so that when you have those very entrepreneur specific annoyances, you have someone or someones you can go and talk to about it who are dealing with the same thing and they know exactly what it is. And you kind of can just exhale. Seeking mentorship is definitely something I wish I would have been advised to do. And the reason being is that I think there's a lot of missteps that I could have avoided had I sought mentorship through somebody who has been through, you know, this entrepreneurship journey already. And it didn't have to be anybody who was just that much older, whatever, just somebody who already has a lot of that experience. Because once again, entrepreneurship can get very lonely. Having somebody who already been through these things could help give you advice. So when you're at like a fork in the road or a crossroad, you don't know what to do, having that mentor to kind of guide would have been wonderful, right? Having that Malik that I could have went to and spoke to for 15 minutes about whatever would have been, you know, paramount to me, like I said, hop-stepping over some of these obstacles that I faced. Now, the obstacles I faced made it better for me to be able to tell other entrepreneurs what they shouldn't have done. But in the same sense, it would have been great to have that mentor and really be able to lean on them and have that relationship. So those are the two pre-pivot pieces of advice I would have loved. Post-pivot, the biggest piece of advice, I wish I would have just charged more out the gate for all of my services. Right? Okay. I feel like I experienced burnout a few times. So in doing that, that's health related, that's mental health related, that could be financial related because I can't work, so maybe I can't make no money. So, I had a lot of ups and flows with that because, I wasn't able to regulate the workload as well as I should have because the prices were too low. So, in order for me to hit certain metrics, I would have to have so many projects and I would have to be working on them at the same time and all these different things. So that wasn't, advantageous for me in that short run. But as I did lean on resources, there's a guy named Chris Do who did an incredible YouTube video about pricing. And that YouTube video, between his YouTube video and there's another guy, and I can't remember his name right now, and I hate that I can't, but he did a webinar on price anchoring. So his price anchoring webinar and Chris Doe's pricing YouTube video changed the trajectory of all of my businesses because I was able to learn how to better price services and also how to utilize psychology to get clients to pay more for things so that I was able to really be able to take on less clients yet make way more money and thus be able to have a lot of that stuff off my chest so that I was able to really become this entrepreneur that was able to start to scale, right? The word is scale. And it was very important. So post pivot, I really wish that I had the advice to just charge more out the gate. Everybody's not your customer. Everybody's not your client. Charge more out the gate. Focus on those people.
There you go. That's all that marketing, tying all the marketing in together.
It all together.
Marketing fundamentals for sure. Well, for you, I would want to know, what's next? What are some things that you would say that are upcoming, or what are you excited about? Talk to us.
Oh, man, there's so much. The biggest thing, and it kind of falls in line with helping those entrepreneurs, I'm launching a platform, right? So I have an Instagram page right now, which is Malik_Mr. Multi-Streams_Mac. And that's going to be my professional brand that I'm pushing out to the world. As you guys have started seeing a lot of that content coming out, I want to help the everyday person or the entrepreneur discover different ways of adding additional income to their lives, right? So I have a book that's coming out. I have a membership site that's coming out that's going to coincide with the book. I have a couple smaller books, but the big book's going to be called 101 Side Hustle, Small Businesses and Income Streams, A Guide to Your Financial Freedom. That's a working title. And that's really going to list out a lot of those income streams, side hustles, and small businesses that people can jump into. It'll have some, very pertinent information about, the cost of getting into that. Some of those will have some quotes from people in those specific jobs or income streams and giving them some little information. And then the membership site is going to coincide with that because those are going to be micro courses specific to those income streams and small businesses and things like that. So it can show you exactly how you can do it and you can create that for yourself. And then it's also a podcast with that as well, which I was telling you about, which is the More Money with Malik podcast. And that's speaking to people in those income streams, in those side hustles, in those small businesses, extracting that information from them to make it easier for other people to get into those roles or those income streams and those jobs, so that it's, everybody's getting in a position that, hey, if your boss wakes up cranky one day, the next day and fires you, your whole world isn't ending, right? You have other things that are helping you create more income. Plus, we're in a world where inflation is high, everything's taxed, real estate rates are ridiculous, and we're in that cycle of real estate and all those different things. So the additional income, eggs, how expensive are eggs right now? Let's talk about it, right? So
out of my fridge.
Talk about it. So, just being able to have additional income streams so that it can take some of the load off of, the things we're experiencing in the economy right now. So creating that Mr. Multi-Streams platform is what I'm focusing on right now. So like I said, it's going to be the book, and there's a few books because it's going to be a book series. It's going to be the membership site that coincides with the books with all those courses. And then also I have other courses in there other than the micro courses, which is Entrepreneurship 101 course, specific paid advertising marketing course, sales course, mindset course, and all those different things. So people will be able to just pay a 1 yearly fee for access to the entire membership site, and then they'll have access to all those videos and all of those courses. And then the podcast, which will be the More Money Malik podcast, launching that. So all of this will be working in tandem, as well as the content that I'm pushing out on my social media channels, which will be primarily through Instagram and TikTok.
Nice.
So
very nice.
That's what I'm focusing on right now.
a lot of exciting stuff coming down the path here. It's going to be a big year. It's going to be a big year,
Amen.
absolutely, on your end.
Amen.
So I know you have to go here soon, but I wanted to ask lastly about any kind of like parting words of wisdom. Obviously, you've dropped a lot of knowledge on us, and truly appreciative. I'm sure that there are a lot of people who are in the process of either making pivots that would be able to draw from this advice. But what are some parting words of wisdom that you would say that you want to leave the folks with?
Absolutely. The biggest thing is mindset, right? I really want people to pay attention to their mindsets when they're thinking about these pivots. I think pivots are super important because a lot of times we have forks in the road, we have mountains in the road, there's things that are in our pathways, and we need to be able to pivot. The first part about being able to pivot is giving yourself permission to pivot. A lot of times people will try to climb that mountain that's insurmountable. You know what I mean? A lot of times people will just say, well, I'm just going to sit here in the muck because I don't want to be confrontational. I don't want to think about what I would have to do in order for my life to be different. Mindset is the number one thing you need to focus on. If you feel like you're in those type of positions and you're like, well, I'm just going to sit here, I'm going to try to climb this insurmountable mountain, all those things, work on your mindset. Talk to somebody, get some help. It could be a business or a professional or a corporate coach. It can be a therapist, a licensed medical therapist, somebody who's going to help you break down those things that you set in your brain that are preventing you from having forward progress, right? And here's the kicker. It doesn't always have to be forward progress, because sometimes you got to step back to be able to see a wider range, right? And by doing that, that would allow you to say, oh, you know what? I can do this. And then you start to build the pathway, you start to build the plan and systems to get to this, right? So when you're thinking about that pivot, I want you to keep mindset there. And I want you to recognize that any stop in movement is a stagnation on your blessings, is stagnation on your progress. And so you need to make a decision. And sometimes, like I said, you need to step back and look more, or you need to utilize professional help so that they can give you the tools that they've cultivated over time to help you with whatever you're going through. The second piece of advice when it comes to the pivot is I want you to think about three things when you're doing the pivot. I want you to think about the financial, I want you to think about the physical, and I want you to think about the emotional/mental health aspect of it. And the reason I say this is because sometimes we focus on one of these things and not all of these things, and then that gets us in trouble, right? So when you're like, oh, I'm going to do this thing because I'm going to make a lot more money, but you're not thinking about the physical and the emotional/mental health part of it, you put yourself in a position to be in a position where you are unhappy, you are not taking care of yourself. Yeah, you're making more money, but you're killing yourself faster in a way, right? And so when you're making any of these pivotal decisions, I want you to think about all these things. And you can say, okay, is this going to feed me financially? Is this going to feed me physically? Is this going to feed me emotionally and mentally? And when you get a check mark across the board, then that might be a better direction to go in than just something that's going to feed you in one of those ways. Because when the other things start to fall apart, everything starts to fall apart, right? And the last piece of this is I need you to think about what it is that you can do for another person when you're thinking about your pivot. And you're like, what does that mean? Why would I be thinking about other people when I'm making a pivot based off of me? Yes, you definitely want to make a pivot based off of you, but I always tell people to have those I always call them blessing credits in your jar. You know what I mean? So whenever I'm making a big decision, whatever, I go into super blessing mode. I'm blessing everybody. Yeah. Oh, there's a man on the street where he needed money. Here's $1, brother. Be blessed. You know, sometimes at Starbucks, hey, I pay for your drink. Like, it's like, I know it sounds weird. I don't know. It's a me thing, but I'm also an investor. I feel like I'm on the payroll, and I be like, listen, when I'm about to make these big decisions, let me build up these blessing credits, you know, and usually that works out for me. So those are the three, parting words of wisdom I would give you, and I would say, and also just be fearless, right? I'm a Christian, so I'm like, I lean on God. So a lot of times, like, catch me, Lord, and I just, it's that type of situation, and so be fearless, because a lot of times, even if you're not feeling the best about things, when you walk in with your head up, it changes the perception of you. And with your perception being different, a lot of times people are going to treat you different, people are going to act a little different around you, you're going to get the respect you deserve, and that's going to manifest the energy around you that's going to cause all those positive things that you want to happen to come to fruition. So those are a few parting words of wisdom. I give you more, but we good.
Well, there you have it, y'all. Malik, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us, my brother.
Absolutely. Anytime at all. And congratulations to you. This is big. I want you to acknowledge that. I want to make sure people understand this is big. You stepping out on faith. You've had a couple conversations with different people and they was like, yo, you need a podcast. You said, you know what? I'm going to do the work, right? You seek some professional help and they gave you somebody and y'all kind of bounced some things. Yeah. And here we are today, right? You created a goal for yourself and you stepping towards it. Everybody can do it. No one's so special that they are only ones who could be successful and do. You're stepping out on faith and you're doing it already, making it happen. So kudos to you, my brother. This is gonna be bigger than anything. It's gonna be like Earn Your Leisure. It's gonna be big, like all them big things. And I'm gonna be like, I was on one of the first episodes talking about stuff. So, amen.
I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you, Malik. Honestly, yeah, this is definitely a dream come true. This is definitely absolutely a dream come true. So, honestly, the sky is up. The limit.
Not even the sky. Not even the sky.
Yeah.
Elon shows y'all. We're going to Mars. Okay.
Oh man. And thank you all. And thank you, Malik. I really appreciate you. And thank you all for tuning in. Please remember to like and subscribe for more. Most importantly, pivot powerfully. Be well, everyone.